Hey, we've got lesson 4, distributive property. So this is where our work starts to get fun. We start to have all these different steps start coming into play in our work. So today we're going to focus on distributive property. So here, if we look at our original problem, we have 2 outside of a set of parentheses. These parentheses are representing multiplication. So when you have a number in between, a number next to a parenthesis, in between there is multiplication. So we don't write that times sign or a times dot. So what we're going to do here is we're going to distribute the 2 throughout the parentheses, and we do that using multiplication. So the next step here is showing 2 times x, and then 2 times 4. That sign hasn't changed in the middle. Right now all our numbers are positive, so there's really no reason for that to change. We'll come across some of those where the sign might change. So in the end, our answer, 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 4 is 8. So our answer is just 2x plus 8. We're not solving here just yet. This is just the distributive property, so that is it. That's as far as we can go. So let's practice some of these together. I added in a couple more at the bottom that you will try on your own in the questions marked in the video. All right, so right here, I like drawing these lines because we tend to forget about this number over here. So we can't forget about this, especially when we're solving and it's mixed in with other steps. For whatever reason, this guy gets left out. So 6 times y is here, and you can use parentheses, or I don't know, I just wrote a y, I meant to write a 6. 6 times y. And as we get good at this, you could skip showing this work. I think you guys can do the work in your head of 6 times y is 6y. And then 6 times 7, so we keep that addition sign. 6 times 7 is 42. So again, if you don't have your multiplication table memorized, you can use your calculator. But as you're solving equations, and you'll see as we do this, I'll skip this step, okay? But I want, for the purpose of your notes, for you to write this down right now so you see where this answer comes from. Okay, problem 2. So now there's a number next to our x. Well, that's just, right, all more multiplication. 3x means 3 times x. And then we're multiplying by 5. So associative property tells us we can multiply these numbers together any way we want. So we can multiply the 5 and the 3 together. So I've got 5 times 3x. We coming over here, I keep the same sign, 5 times 8. So 5 times 3, 15 minus 40. So it might seem easy to you. If you want to pause your video and test it out, you can. Here I've got some decimals. If you guys want to grab your calculator or not, it doesn't matter. Go for it. So 4.2 times 4. And we keep the t. And 4.2 times 6. I keep the sign in there. I don't want to make any mistakes, so I'm going to do 4.2 times 4 in my calculator. 16.8t minus 4.2 times 6, 25.2. Number 4 is a little different. There's no numbers out there. So we just have a negative sign or a subtraction sign. So when there's no numbers there, you could think of it as a 1, this invisible 1. And we'll talk more about this invisible 1 as we work, and we'll see it often. So we can take this invisible 1 and distribute that through. So we've got -1 times 16, and then minus 3a times -1, or -1 times 3a. So I was starting to write the 3a because if I do this here, I've got that -1. So careful, this is the subtraction sign. This is the -1 times 3a. So if you want to put the -1 after to not confuse yourself there, you can. Or it might be easier here because you could see those two negatives next to each other clearly. A negative times a negative is a positive. Or those two negatives, when you subtract a negative, it becomes a positive. So two different ways to think about that. But here we've got -1 times 16, so -16. So here again, you're either we multiply to get a -3a. So if we subtract a -3a, this becomes a positive. Or you could think of it as a negative times a negative. So we end up with positive 3a. Okay, if this confuses you, be sure to ask some questions tomorrow in class. We'll look at more of those. So again, I added in a 7 and an 8. Those will come up in your questions that you need to answer. If you're feeling comfortable, pause it and try this one out. So I've got -5 times h minus a -5 times 8g. -5h. So right here, these two negatives next to each other become a positive. 5 times 8, 40g. More negatives with 6. Again, pause. Try it. See if you get it right. -2 times -3.3 minus -2 times p. Negative times a negative right here, that's going to give us a positive. 2 times 3.3 is 6.6. So that double negative again becomes a positive. 2 times p is just 2p. All right, so 7 and 8 are those questions right in the program. So try those out. So here, hopefully you guys got this right. I'm going to skip the work. 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 5 is 15. Over here, -7 times 1 is a -7. And then that double negative again is going to turn into a positive. 7 times 2 is 14, and we keep the a. So that's the type of work you'll see as I go into solving equations. I won't show that multiplication. I'm hoping that we could do that in our heads. If not, you do what you got to do. You write that work down. But I am assuming that we don't need to. I am hoping we don't need to. More work that you do not need to write. All right, on to page 10. Okay, so now we've added in an equal sign and we're going to solve. So our 2-step from last time becomes a 3-step. So we've got distributive property before we head into our other steps. So we are first going to distribute. So 3k, there's that 3 times k. Plus 3 times 4, so I'm going right to 12. I'm not showing 3 times 4. Bring down equals 33. Now this looks like a 2-step equation. Remember, inverse operation here. I see a positive, so I do the opposite. I subtract to get rid of it. 33 minus 12. I didn't need a calculator, but I'm using it. 21. Now I've got 3 times what number equals 21, so I'm doing the opposite here. I'm dividing. 21 divided by 3 is 7. Let's check that work. I'm going to rewrite the original. Now with distributive property, you have a couple of different ways you could do this. You don't necessarily have to go right back to distributing, because we have an old concept that shows up. What you do in parentheses, or what you see in parentheses, you do first. So we could do 7 plus 4, get 11, and now we have 11 times 3. 11 times 3 is 33. It worked. Okay. At any point when you are feeling ready, you pause it, try one on your own, and then check it. 3 times h is 3h. 3 times 5 is negative 15. I say negative, I brought down the subtraction sign, equal to 30. It's a 2-step. Oh, I forgot in the last one, I can draw my line. We talked about boxing in that variable. Opposite of the 15, negative 15 is positive. I do the opposite sign, the inverse operation. I bring down my 3h. 30 plus 15, I've got 45. 3 times what is 45? I do the opposite of multiplication, I divide. And 45 divided by 3 is 15. Let's check it. I'm rewriting the original. I'm substituting in 15. Parentheses first, 15 take away 5 is 10. 3 times 10. I know I did it right. We've got a fraction here. No need to worry. It's an easy fraction, 1/2. We can do this, we can handle this. Well, it's just 1/2 times x, so 1/2 times a 1x. So again, invisible 1. Whenever you see a variable with no number there, it's an invisible 1. So 1/2 times 1x, or 1/2 times x, is just 1/2 x. And now 1/2 of 18. You can punch that in your calculator by using your ABC function. Or what's half of 18? You guys know this. So 1 ABC2 times 18, half of 18 is 9. My line, same thing, box that in. I see a plus sign, so I do the opposite. Cancels out here. 20 minus 9. I bring down the 1/2 x. Okay, so now we're using the inverse operation where we flip over our fraction. Flip it over here. Well, 2 over 1 is just 2, so we're looking at 11 times 2. Right here, they're gone. 11 times 2 is 22. just check it. Rewrite the original. Plug in what we believe the answer is. Add. 8 plus 2 is 10. Carry the 1. 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 4. All right, back to multiplying by that fraction. Well, multiplying by 1/2 is the same as finding half. Half of 40 is 20. We know we did it correctly. Two more, and then I'm going to have you try a couple more at the end of the video. You could solve those wherever you have room in your notes, or if you want to grab scrap paper, you could solve those on scrap paper. Again, pause whenever you feel confident and want to try them on your own. So step 1, distribute. -3 times a is -3a. All right, we've got a negative out front. Negative times a positive is a negative. 3 times 3 is 9. So now we have a subtraction in here. We do the opposite. So we add 9. (18 plus 9), 27. -3 times what number is 27? We do the opposite again. We divide. Don't lose that negative along the way. It goes with it. 27 divided by a -3. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. 27 divided by 3 is 9. I'm going to check it by rewriting. A we think is -9. Again, we can do inside parentheses. -9 plus 3. If you guys are no good with your integers, use your calculator. Type it in just like you see it. But here, signs are different. We're going to subtract. We take the sign of the larger number. So -9 plus 3 is -6. Negative times a negative is a positive. 6 times 3 is 18. All right, one more. And then you'll finish the few examples after the video here. Well, this looks a little different. So what I've done was just flip it around. Sometimes we're not used to seeing this and we don't like it. You can scribble this out and write the equal sign over here. Right? If you're saying one thing is equal to the other, it doesn't matter which side it's on. Right? They're balanced, they're equal, they're the same. So if you get good at it, depending on what's on, what is with this, we've got to be careful not to mix up some of the numbers and signs. But this is just one number. We can't really mix that up. You can move it over here. Okay. But for the purpose of this right now, and if you just crossed everything out in pen, you could rewrite it. I'm going to do it this way just so you can see it. So I'm going to draw my line here. I'm still doing distributive property, so it all works the same way. Multiply -4 times 2x. -4 times 2 is -8. I keep the x. -4, careful here. Negative times this sign here is negative. This is going to be a positive. Negative times a negative is a positive. 4 times 4 is 16. So now instead of everything moving this way, I'm moving it the other way. So here, I've got the 16, it's positive, I'm going to do the opposite, I'm going to subtract it. That's my x that I'm keeping, that comes down. I'm subtracting 6 minus 6 is 0, 3 minus 1 is 2. -8 times what is equal to 20. We divide by -8. Oh boy, that doesn't go in evenly. That's okay. Sometimes our problems don't work out like they should. Hopefully I didn't make a mistake in there. But we can remember, we talked about it in one of the last videos, we could show this answer in a couple of different ways. Now this can be simplified. They're both even. So 4 goes into both of those. 4 goes into 20. Oh, what am I doing? Division sign here. Okay. And 4 goes into 8. So 20 divided by 4 is 5. I guess I'm thinking in my head going backwards because I don't have room over here, but I guess it looks backward. But 20 divided by 4, go that way, is 5. And -8 divided by 4 is -2. So we can have a -5/2. You're probably thinking, Mrs. McGraw, why did you just do that? Punch it all into the calculator. It's good to review simplifying fractions. This is the way I would leave it, and then I would check it. But however, if we want to take a look at that calculator, and I would also say, you know your answer is negative. Leave your negative right out of the calculator because it might mix you up, right? We got to use our brains a little bit. We know a negative goes there. We don't need to punch it in. If we want to do it this way, 20 divided by 8, 2.5, right? That's not an ugly decimal. We can use that. Again, let's review. So we could do second key, PRB, fraction to decimal, or other way. So now it shows us 2 1/2. Well, that's not what I had. Second ABC, that's mixed number to improper, or the other way around. There's the 5/2. And we know it's negative. I already said, don't even worry about putting the negative in. You don't want that to screw you up. We know it's negative. So any one of those you can use. So you could use the -2.5, or you can use the -2 1/2. Let's check it. So we've got 2 times. All right, I'm going to guess. You guys want to use the decimal. I like using the fraction, the improper fraction. But I'll do it. All right, so we've got 2 times a -2 1/2. Remember, a positive times a negative is a positive. So right here, 2 times 2 1/2 is a -5. And then I'm going to rewrite everything over here. I'm going to keep going. -5 minus 4 is -9. Negative times a negative is a positive. 4 times 9 is 36. So we didn't make any mistakes. We got a decimal. It's okay to have a decimal or a fraction answer, right? They always don't come out perfect. Okay, thanks for joining me. Try the questions that follow this video. We'll see you tomorrow.